Welcome to Bitpicking TV, a special edition of the Bitpicking podcast, this time on video. I'm Greg.
I'm Mark.
I'm Laura.
Hi, Mark.
Hello, Laura.
Hi, Greg.
We did it!
Oh my God.
Today, in spite of the coronavirus, which means that we are all practicing social distancing, we got together via the power of video conferencing, and we're going to talk about that. What does it mean? How are we getting on working from home? All of that good stuff. So let's go. Okay, well, obviously things are different because we're all on Skype. We're not in person today because of coronavirus. So we thought we'd do an episode where we're all remote by necessity, but also because that's what everyone else is doing, and we'll just have a chat about that.
Can I say, by the way, that sound quality is fantastic?
Is it?
This, yeah, this is
That's
much
my,
the most normal conference calls.
That's my posh mic.
I have to say you spoke too soon because oh God, I just got that. You cut out through most of that, and then all I got was Greg lifting something up into the camera.
Well, we've obviously hit bullet point 1 in the problems with working from home, which is connectivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we've done quite well that we're all not on mute. That seems to be
That's pretty impressive.
Yes.
I think we're all streaming video nicely. Although I see that Netflix are turning down the quality of their streaming.
Yeah, I just read that. Yeah.
Everyone's working from home. Really hard.
I mean, obviously for me, I normally work from home anyway. So actually life's getting a bit busier for me having everyone else around in the house. But how are you guys finding it?
Well, for me, it's difficult because we're quarantined because we've had a bit of illness, and my 6-year-old's at home, so it is a little bit tricky because I'm still technically working, so it's kind of sharing the load. But it's difficult. Doing everything remotely is quite tricky when you're trying to do usability testing and with other people.
So how does that work remotely then?
I haven't done any in the last couple of days, but we have done some in the company, and it's been remote, which has been absolutely fine. We're used to doing remote, but it's just sending people a Zoom link and just getting them to complete the test online, share the screen. But it's only as good as like the streaming and the quality of the call.
And I suppose that only works for online testing.
Yeah.
Because you've been doing some product testing recently, haven't you? So I suppose all of that stuff has to stop if you've got a physical thing you're trying to observe.
Yeah, if it's physical, it's a bit trickier. But if it's websites and apps, that's fine. But that's kind of the meat of what we do anyway. So it's not too bad. What about you, Greg?
Well, I mean, personally, I work from home infrequently anyway, so it wasn't really much different for me. But as a business, we weren't that into it. It wasn't a common thing for us. We've actually gone into it quite quickly. So I'd say today probably most of the business was out. I think there was a couple of people left in, and we're using a bit of remote desktop. That's really been the savior, because for us, which was something we didn't really think about, laptops are not common. You know, for me, I've always had a laptop, so I never really thought about it. But suddenly we look at the business and outside of the development team, and there's quite a few desktops. So we had to very quickly decide, well, how do these people work from home? So a combination of them using their own devices if it's suitable, or taking the desktop home. But if they don't take their machine home, we just get them to VPN in and use remote desktop. And actually, it's been really good. So everyone sort of got into it quite quickly. So it's not been that disruptive for me from a technical perspective.
Yeah, I'm quite enjoying the less meetings aspect. I don't know if you found the same, but I found that there's less meetings because it's a barrier now to getting meetings done in a way. Are you the same?
Yeah, and I think certainly from my side, I think because all of our people now, like I say, I normally work remotely anyway, but actually the office in London is closed. Our India office is closed as well, and so everyone is working from home. So yeah, I mean, I think for me, it seems to have, if anything, increased slightly. I think people are more desperate to connect, or at least maybe I just see it.
Really?
Whereas previously they would have had to have, or they could have just talked in the office. Now for me, they're having to get on a call and do it, and so I see a bit more of it rather than feeling like I'm being bypassed a bit.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. That when we're in the office, obviously there's a lot of just walking up to people and, because it's mostly open plan, you sort of have these ad hoc sessions. Now, actually, if you want to talk to someone, you have to sort of do it a little bit more formally. So I'm actually having more meetings. I mean, I don't like the term meetings personally, they're just organized chats, but I'm having more of them, and we've actually introduced Teams. I mean, literally like 2 days ago. So this is the Microsoft version of Slack, which most people are aware of. And actually, that's been also a bit revolutionary, because now suddenly we have this really easy way for people in different locations just to say, right, let's talk about that. And having a button that says start video or start call without having to schedule it through Outlook, pick a start time and end time and all of that. It's been really, really good. And I don't think most people in the business were aware of the sort of the benefit of that kind of tool. So I think it will probably stick, because we only really started it because we're all remote now. But I think we'll stick with that.
I think that's, yeah. Sorry, go on, Mark.
One thing I find that actually talking to some of the devs in India this morning, because there is, especially when you're doing development, it's very easy if you're co-located. And we all like the idea of co-located teams because it's very easy to turn around and just ask someone a quick question. Whereas now, because you do have to ping someone or call someone, that bar is raised a little bit higher as to how much difficulty you're going to be in before you can, or disturb someone else in order to ask them a question. So I think, and there's certainly a concern for new starters. There are some new developers that have joined the team, and now they're entirely out on their own. And of course they can call someone and speak to them, but again, there's just that little bit more barrier to get over before you go, okay, well, I really need to phone someone now and ask them about this.
Yeah, and I suppose it relates down to personalities as well. Just thinking of my team, and some people are quite happy to be part of a conversation, but maybe not so happy to initiate it. So if they're in the room while you're talking about something, they'll be completely interactive and put some real valuable input. But sometimes, if they're by themselves, they might not sort of initiate that conversation. So I guess that's something I need to think about, is how to keep that stuff open. I'm very conscious of the whole water cooler. I mean, I know it's an Americanism, but that whole idea that you just by being in the same place, there is something, and how can we not lose that? Because the reality is this might go on for 3 months.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And at the moment, I think because it's week 1, right? Mostly for most people, we're all in a bit of this like, oh, isn't it exciting and interesting? And there'll be some Gartner hype chart about working from home and, the trough of despair and all that kind of stuff.
I might be on that bit.
Oh, really? It's only day 2.
Yeah.
To go.
Yeah, and they're talking about how it might be, or they're speculating it might be 12 weeks and then a gap and then another 12 weeks, like to just sort of really space it all out or something, which doesn't sound good.
But isn't there, don't you think, oh, have you lost Laura? Oh no, she's back.
I'm back. I think my internet connection must be a bit slow today. I don't know what's going on.
But I suppose the plus side of this is we do have nowadays a great wealth of software that helps us cope with all this, whether that's conferencing or whether that's streaming whatever movie you want to your to your TV whenever you want it, or whether that's being able to order food and a wealth of luxuries that you wouldn't have had just a few years ago, really. So I wonder what other innovations might even come out of this. And there's
yeah, it's true. There's a phrase, isn't there, which is something like, in despair comes great innovation. It's not that. That's terrible.
Was it necessity is the mother of all invention? Is that the one?
You go. That's it. Yeah.
Despair is the what?
In despair comes great innovation. Greg 2020.
Much snappier. Yeah.
But
it's
true.
Like Yoda.
Yeah. But it is true. So I do wonder what what we're going to see in the next few weeks or months. Particularly stuff that can be set up quite quickly. Has anyone seen anything that they've not used before or heard of? I mean, I can start with one. This isn't really a product, but of course, this is now this trend to do what we're doing, which is to have these social events on video calls. So tomorrow night, it's Thursday tonight. So tomorrow night, me and my friends are meeting on Skype for a virtual pub type experience. We've got some other friends asking to do that on Saturday.
Oh, we were going to do that at work, but we have pub Fridays, and they're gonna do that tomorrow. We're gonna have like a glass of wine over lunch or something. Yeah. So we do.
No one's invited me to a virtual pub.
Oh, you can come to ours, our one. You're kind of having a virtual pub right now.
Yeah, sure.
You've got wine.
Virtual wine bar.
Yeah. But yeah, we've found using Miro at work. I don't know if anyone knows Miro. It's like a virtual whiteboard. So someone in the team was doing like a client workshop on a virtual whiteboard. So they're all adding Post-its and stickies and grouping things, and it was really interesting. And apparently it worked really well. So it's something to use if you're not all in the same room at the same whiteboard, the physical whiteboard. Quite handy.
I've always found them quite awkward, but the only one I've ever used is Google Wave, I think. I'm not sure, especially because if you're using a mouse, I wonder if you're on a tablet and you've got your finger, that would be quite easy. But on a computer, I'm not too sure personally, but maybe I'll give that a try.
Do you think? I mean, certainly, what's going to come out of this is a lot of companies that thought working remotely just couldn't be done or wasn't feasible will magically discover that maybe it's not quite so bad.
Yeah. You can imagine there's this like uprising where people don't go back to work. And the government's like, everything's fine. Get outside.
We're like, no,
I'm quite happy, thank you.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, I keep losing you.
See, we're just demonstrating the technology gaps.
Pros and cons here. Yeah.
I mean, interesting actually.
This is where we get like holograms and stuff.
Yes, that's what we need. Well, one of the challenges we've had at work. So we use a cloud VPN solution. So rather than having building our own VPN endpoints, it's essentially all sort of centralized. And actually, that's been struggling to cope with the demand over the last couple of days. So trying to get into certain geographical regions through those VPNs has been a bit of a pain.
All right, so you connect to some cloud server, which then bounces you back to the actual network.
Yes.
Is that how that works?
Yeah. So from our perspective, it's kind of a zero config VPN or zero.
Right. Okay.
Maintenance, but
I mean, it's to be expected, though, isn't it? Everyone is now online. I mean, I heard that Vodafone, their data traffic or their mobile usage had gone up 50% or something. We mentioned already that Netflix are having to lower the video quality because everybody's now at home and streaming. I mean, why everyone's not working as much as they were before, I don't know. But
I think O2 stopped working, didn't it, at the start of this week? O2, they were dealing with high volume of something, calls and stuff.
Certainly someone seems to have reduced the bit rate on your video here, Greg. I don't know whether it's the, is it the copper wire to Wimborne that...
It's a paper cup with a string.
Maybe I don't get anything done, really.
It's a paper. I did want to talk about actually, and very relevant to you, Laura, is virtual conferences.
Oh yes, yeah. I'm seeing every conference is virtual now. It's crazy.
Yeah. Is that a good thing?
It's fine. It's a shame because I don't get to go to the actual locations,
Yeah.
which are quite nice.
You were due to speak in Copenhagen, right? Next month?
Yeah, next week.
Next week.
Is it next week? Yeah, I've lost all track of time. It's only been 2 days, and I'm like, I have no idea what day it is.
Yeah.
But yeah. So we're doing it all online now, which is amazing to sort of pivot and do things differently. But I feel really bad for the organisers because they often book all this stuff, in advance. They can't get the money back. And then you've got people who are like, well, I don't want to go to an online conference. I want it to be in person. And they get a lot of flack for it. And it's just unfair because they can't do anything about it.
No. No,
yeah. So, some of the organisers I've spoke to are really suffering, which is a real shame. But,
so how's it going to work? You're going to live stream it like you're doing now, your talk?
So there's a mixture of live streaming and recorded talks because obviously...
for that reason.
fails. Yeah. Did I just glitch again?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Yeah. So if it fails, it can be a bit of a pain, and people are paying a lot of money to go to the conference online, and we're trying to find ways to make it more interactive. So I think we're going to use Zoom in the breaks where it puts you into lots of breakout rooms. So Zoom has this thing where you can chuck people like into a room of 5, 6, 8, and facilitate a discussion, and then
this is like chat roulette for developers.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah, chat roulette. Wow. But yeah.
Why do you know
but
about
like
chat roulette, Mark?
Let me change them. Maybe it's time for that to make a comeback in this.
Do you know what? I think this might be one of those innovations.
Yeah.
Like chat roulette for the workplace, but
yeah.
not naked.
Yes. Oh man, this is it. Yeah. So like just to kind of simulate the, I'm walking down the hall and
roulette,
I bump into, Jean from finance. This would be it. It just suddenly my camera will come on and go, oh Jean, how are you? Nice to see you. How have you been?
Maybe it gives you a scenario at the bottom and it tells you, this is. But yeah, it could be like water cooler roulette.
Yeah.
Water cooler. Okay. I was hoping we'd do more of a Club Penguin style interaction. Could just have a virtual office, a little cartoon and penguin.
That'd be great.
I heard they've revived Club Penguin.
Oh really?
I heard that earlier today. I don't know if that was just a joke. I'm looking it up now. I'm googling as we speak.
While you look it up, did you see that all the Japanese students due to graduate this week actually did it in Minecraft instead?
Oh wow!
Because they couldn't actually physically have their graduation. They just built a Minecraft graduation ceremony hall and all went in there.
That's it. I mean, we're absolutely going to come out of this and we're going to realise we don't need to ever meet anyone ever.
No.
Because there's all these virtual ways that we can interact.
Who needs outside?
Yeah.
Not me.
For the record, Club Penguin. It's the wine. Club Penguin Rewritten. cprewritten.net.
Is this an official port or is this going to go the way of original chat roulette?
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want me to sign up and see?
Of course.
It says Club Penguin. Oh God, I can't say it. Club Penguin Rewritten is an educational instance. We do not hold copyright for any of the files. So clearly someone's just ripped it off.
Ripped off the server, yeah.
Started it up again. That's pretty cool.
All of this, going back to the conferences though, Laura, I mean those breakouts, I do think they do put a burden on the participant, don't they, to be an extrovert? Do you think?
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I mean, I'm not particularly introverted, as most people will know, but I'd even feel a bit weird if I was dropped in a conference room with a bunch of people I didn't know. I'd find that quite difficult, I think.
I think you don't have to though. You don't have to do that bit if you don't want to. You could just disconnect from the call and reconnect again, or you could just mute yourself, or you could just leave. It's up to you.
Yeah, it is chat roulette.
So I guess you could just mute yourself and not take part in the discussion. But yeah, it's hard. It's finding ways to get people doing stuff together, like maybe sketchnoting throughout, adding to a group sketch note on a whiteboard or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just making the best of a bad situation, really.
Do you know much about how the business plan works financially? Because of course there's probably a bit of perception that if you stream something on the internet, it should be free, whereas if you attend something in person, you're expected to buy a ticket. So, what are the organisers doing? Are they charging for streaming tickets now, or are they just saying, "Oh, they are"? Okay.
Yeah, because it's in Denmark, the border's closed, so no one can go, and they're not allowed out in public. So even if you are in Denmark, you can't physically gather. There's a restriction. So yes, they're charging for the streaming tickets, and I think that's what the backlash is about, really, a little bit.
Oh wow.
But at the end of the day, it's a business for someone who's got to recover the costs, I suppose, of what they've already put into it. So it's quite a difficult decision to make. So, I mean, I don't run it, but I can see both sides of the story, because I love conferences, but you pay for an experience in a way.
Yeah.
Which,
I was going to say it does kind of make you think about, well, what's the special sauce of a conference? Most people like going to a conference, and doing it online just doesn't feel the same. And is it just kind of that buzz from being there? Because also people go to conferences. I dare say a lot of developers go to conferences, and it's not like they're there to socialise. Really. They're kind of,
so what are they there for?
It's not like they're going around working the room. They're probably in the break, sit in a corner, open their laptop, and just try and get a bit of code written.
Yeah.
So I sort of wonder what it is. There's a bit of a frisson, I guess, just from being near other people. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's spread out into other industries now, right? And we were talking before we started recording about concerts. That's another big public gathering in a central location that has to stop. And I think, Mark, you were saying that some artists, or was it Laura, some artists are now live streaming?
Yeah, on Twitch.
Gary Lightbody from Snow Patrol was doing one this evening. I didn't see it, but Twitter says it was great. But there's a whole bunch of artists now who are, given that they've got nothing much else to do.
Yeah, is it on Twitch, isn't it?
Yeah.
That current streaming we were talking about, where actually it's not as good as being like the buzz of being in like a big crowd, but you've got the intimacy of being directly connected to the artist, and you can send them stuff or chat with them. I don't know.
So I went to a concert just a few weeks ago, Michael Kiwanuka, and we were in the crowd. And I was like, this is really good, it's really good. And some guy just came and stood right in front of me, a really tall guy, and I couldn't see anything. And then because obviously the crowd is compact, there was nowhere for me to move. So it actually sort of ruined it for me. And in that moment, I was like, oh God, if I was just like at home in my pajamas with a glass of wine, this would be much nicer.
If you could just come to my house next time. Just get him on the phone.
Maybe we should invite him on. We should invite him on the podcast, Michael Kiwanuka, see if he wants to just do a couple of numbers for us.
I just realised actually he cut the show off halfway through because he had a bad throat infection, and I didn't think until right now that it might be related. So I wish him all the best.
Infected everyone.
Yeah, true. With his walling, it's
just spraying it out everywhere.
Yeah.
But I saw that on this whole streaming your songs. I saw on the One Show actually, because now you're indoors a lot, you end up watching crap TV as well. I saw on the One Show that there's a trend for doing conference calls like this, but you all join in and then you all sing a song together. and I found it immediately found it like horrible and was like, oh please do not make this a trend.
That's horrendous.
In what set it like as a social thing or a work thing?
Yeah, I don't know what tool they were using, but 100% social. And I don't know how they were connecting people, but completely random people would just sit on their laptops, turn on their video cameras, and somebody would say, right, we're going to sing, I don't know, Imagine by John Lennon or something like that. And then they'd all just break out into song, and that would be the... Oh, God.
Oh, it's a bit out of tune.
This was all just a big ploy, wasn't it, for you to
Yes.
promote your new album?
Streamed gig.
I do actually have a piano behind me. I could get
Yeah.
have a
Come on, Greg.
jam.
Bring some decks, Greg.
That
Yeah.
means Greg's on vocals.
You don't want me on vocals, but I can get my drum machine out.
Yeah. Good.
Everything's
we need
falling
it as well.
There you go. This has descended into madness.
It's way out.
It's just chaos. Quarantine madness.
Yeah, but
Is
it's
this what working from home is like?
it's bringing us together, right?
How have taking it serious now? How have your companies sort of responded from a management level? Because it is all sort of fun and games, but there's a serious thing that well, certainly for us, we're worried that projects are going to stop and our roadmap is going to suffer, all that kind of stuff. And certainly to start with, there was a concern about productivity if you're at home, all that kind of stuff. I'm interested how this has worked for you guys.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a concern. There's sort of positives and negatives. The positives you can try and take from it. There are some things that I think are going to have to stop just because in the scheme of things you think, well, they're just not important. If we're going to be forced to prioritize, and certainly if things like cash flow are going to become a problem, because our customers are not willing, not necessarily going to have the money to spend. It's a whole knock-on effect, right? On the other hand, thinking about how do we change our roadmap so that it reflects what people are going to need to do. Once this is over, actually there are some things that were further down the pipeline, and you kind of say, well, once this is over, people are going to need to do X, Y, and Z to get back on their feet, and we can help accelerate them by building these features or building these products. So there's sort of some positivity there, trying to take from it. I think without it's difficult because you don't want to look like you're trying to profit from the situation, but at the same time it's a genuine desire to help our customers recover from what's a pretty bad situation for everybody.
Yeah. How about you, Laura? How's it worked for your business?
Yeah, it's been fine. It's been quite a good response, actually. Quite simple, because we do work from home from time to time anyway, quite frequently. But like I said, yeah, getting people to do usability testing has to be remote now. We've been advised not to do any face-to-face testing. So, interviewing people or sitting in the same room as someone, getting them to test a website, things like that. So when I went to France last week, that was the last of the in-person testing for a little while, and I think that might be where I might have brought something back.
Yeah, patient zero.
Patient zero. Yeah, I was sat on the train and there were a lot of coughing people.
Oh, really?
Good. Yeah, for like 5 hours or something.
You were stocked up with cheese and wine though, so
I did have a lot of wine in my case.
so that's okay.
I haven't picked anything up though, so I think I've just made my body the most inhospitable place that nothing can thrive there.
Alcohol kills germs.
With all the alcohol, yeah. So I think that's why. But yeah, it's hard to test people in person now. So I think we'll be adapting to remote testing, remote workshops. But yeah, we're all set up to do that. We've had a great response from the management. So we've just had lots of equipment we're going to get sent to us to record with and things. So yeah, it's all good, really.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like it's all, well, at least for us as our tiny little sample, it's all not business as usual. That's the wrong thing to say, but it hasn't been that disruptive having to work from home. Although it should be said, we're only in the sort of first couple of weeks of it.
Yeah, and the children haven't come home yet.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And I think we're also extremely privileged in that regards.
Oh, my lights auto turned off. I'm sorry.
Wow, that's a look. Look at. No, you should keep like that. Kind of like quite.
Oh, really? No, it's yeah. I've got a motion detector, and if I don't move every 7 minutes, the lights turn off.
Oh, technology.
But
Sorry,
yeah,
Mark, you were saying.
we're sort of, we're very privileged
Yeah.
to be in an industry where we can work from home very easily, and therefore can also see to our kids. And I think there's an awful lot of people who are not nearly in the same situation, unfortunate as we are.
Yeah, I've definitely got a few friends where they're not working in like maybe a digital setting where they work for themselves, and it's quite difficult because they've now got their kids that they've got to look after, and how's that going to happen? How's that going to work? So we're really privileged, and I guess a lot of people who work in development and IT are the same. So yeah.
All right. Well, I think we've done quite well to get an episode out in the circumstances. So pretty cool. Any further thoughts from anyone? More chat roulette banter?
I think we should do this in Minecraft next time.
Or Second Life. That's what we need. Second Life.
Second
That
Life.
can't still be going.
It is, I think, isn't it?
I'm Googling.
He's Googling.
Second Life. Second Life is still live.
Maybe we should do that like as a special edition.
Wow. I've never used Second Life. I don't know about you, but I've
never been my thing.
Never done it. I suspect it's the kind of thing where we'll be propositioned within 3 minutes of
So chat roulette then. Basically, all paths lead to chat roulette. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. It's still going right. Next episode, Second Life.
All right. Well, I think let's wrap it up. I think we've succeeded in our test of remote podcasting.
So it's pretty well.
I think it's been good, actually.
Yeah, I think my internet drops out every so often because you guys freeze, and I think I freeze.
That was brilliant. You froze on the word freeze.
I thought you were winding me up then. You were both just sat really still.
Your comic timing is impeccable.
It is. It's almost like we planned it.
I did that. I just paused everything. I just went.
All right. Well, until next time. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Greg.
What? Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.